The New York Giants just completed 2 days of joint practices with the Jets. What did we see? What did we like? What didn't we like? Maybe you saw something that you'd like to talk about because you were lucky enough to get tickets to today's session. Let's talk about it next on the Big Blue Breakdown live. Hello again, everybody. I'm Paul Dottino. So glad you could join us tonight once again for another edition of the Big Blue Breakdown Live. As you know, we are here every single Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to go for at least an hour, maybe an hour and a half. You guys, if you're regulars, you know how it goes, right? We're going to do at least an hour. But depending upon how involved you guys want to be, we'll go longer. Because after all, I know the fans out there are passionate. They have an insatiable appetite for New York Giants football. So we're going to do what we can to serve you up some good Big Blue dinners and give you what you need to know about this football team. Now, first off, let's make something very clear. Brian Daboll has yet to announce what his player deployment is going to be for Saturday's preseason game against the Jets. It is a Giants home game. It is preseason game number 2. And as you know, this past weekend, the Giants opened up with the Buffalo Bills. Brian Daboll went out of his way, and he will continue to go out of his way, not to reveal his preseason snap plan for any of his players. Last week, he was incredibly generous when he told the media that Jackson Dart is going to play. That in itself was an incredible revelation because if you know anything about Brian Daboll, he is not telling anything to anybody. He did give that up last week. And in fact, Jackson Dart did play for a quarter and a half and did very well. But Russell Wilson was the starter. Now, I want to start there before we get into the actual practices with the Giants and Jets, because I think it's very important to note that Brian Daboll, for his first 3 seasons as the Giants head coach, went out of his way not to play his starters and his regular players during the preseason. It was something he really did not have a tendency to do. Get a couple of snaps, okay, fine, but that's it, get out. He wasn't very much in favor of that at all. He's told us consistently over the last month that he has spent an awful lot of time of talking to fellow coaches, studying all kinds of analytics and all kinds of studies that have been put out by football people in terms of what's the risk-reward factor to playing your veterans and your starters during the regular season. Well, I've always been one who believes that your regulars have to play some during the preseason. How much? You could debate that all you like, depending upon each individual case. Whether a player is coming off an injury, whether or not he had a poor off season, whether or not he's new to the team. There are a lot of factors in terms of how much playing time I would give each player. But I have always been a proponent of getting your guys ready by playing them during the preseason. Now, I'm not saying you got to play them a ton, but you got to play them, in my opinion. I have been steadfast in my belief of that for decades. This is not something new. And any of you who have listened to me over the 43 years that I've covered this team, you know I'm telling you the truth. So suffice it to say, when I was in the radio booth Saturday with Sean O'Hara in Buffalo, and we saw how many regulars and starters actually got to play half or even the whole first quarter, I had a big smile on my face because personally, that certainly jives with my philosophy. And I know Sean felt the same way. Howard Cross, another member of our broadcast team, he was on the TV side on Saturday. He is also one who believes that your starters and your regulars have to play some in the preseason. Now, why do I bring all this up? Well, because what we've seen over the last 2 days is that all of the starters, as Brian Daboll said, who were capable of playing in these joint practices with the Jets were out there and participated. Does that mean they will play in Saturday's game? Nobody knows. I had a conversation earlier today with Bob Papa, who is the usual play-by-play voice of the Giants. And Bob said to me, I don't know if he's going to play him or not this week. And I said, well, I don't know either, but I like it. And I wonder if his snap time or snap deployment is going to be tied to the Patriots game the following weekend. Now, why is that critical? Well, as Bob astutely said, he picked it up right away why I was getting to that question. The Giants play the Patriots on Thursday. It's a short week. They play the Jets Saturday. Then Thursday, they're home against the Patriots. It is a short week. It's probably not a great idea to play your starters more than maybe a dozen snaps on Sunday and then ask them to potentially play a series or two on Thursday. That doesn't make sense, given the risk of injury and given where they are. Here we are in the middle of August of training camp. So I think the interesting part is, how does he want to navigate this? Is Brian Daboll going to want to play more snaps out of his starters this week and then not play them at all against the Patriots? Or will he give them some snaps this week and a little taste of some snaps against New England? I'd love to know what you guys think. Now remember, you can hit me up on the chat, which is to the right of your screen. You can also call me, thanks to the link that's right below me. Audio call is fine. Video call is even better. But again, if you're shy, that's fine. We'll take an audio call. But I'd love to discuss with you what you think and why you believe what you do in terms of snaps over the next 2 weeks. Factor in to all of this is that he tried to give, or in fact, he did give all of his healthy regulars today an opportunity to do something these last 2 days against the Jets. All right, so let's get into it. Number one, let's go back over these last 2 days and give you a general feeling for how things went. Everybody has a different opinion. I understand that. Some will jive, some will not jive, but everybody who was at these two practices is going to have their take on it. Now, as far as today, Hyatt, Phillips, and Neal were back in there. Banks and Manhurts sat out. Okay. Really good to see Evan Neal back. Played some left guard today, played some right guard today. He did exceptionally well in the one-on-ones between the offensive line and the defensive line. That is, the Jets' defensive line. That's very good, obviously, because Evan Neal did miss the opening game this past weekend against the Bills. I would expect that Neal is going to play at least a quarter this weekend against the Jets. I think it's imperative that he does. If he is still going to be given a shot to steal a starting job, he's got to play. And he's got to play a lot against the Jets. Maybe into the second quarter, maybe even a whole half. Depends on how he's feeling. But I think he's got to play. The other guy who's kind of important in this same kind of equation is Jalen Hyatt. Hyatt mysteriously came down with some type of ailment last Friday, did not play in Buffalo. It's really disappointing because he has worked so hard once again during this offseason, and in my opinion, was one of the offensive stars of this offseason. And then not to be able to play in the first preseason game. Wow. I mean, that was a big, big blow and a big setback in my mind to how he is trying to progress to make himself a key component in this wide receiving core. Now, let me say this. I do think Hyatt's going to play against the Jets. I hope he plays a half, and I hope they get him some targets because he needs to prove with every snap that he's on the field that he belongs in this offense. We've been telling you for months, it's a show-me year for him. Good news is that he was out there today. All right, let's get to the practice report. Now, I don't know how many of you guys were out there, either at Florham Park yesterday or at East Rutherford today. And by the way, we already have a comment. Arnold Stevenson, Freedom says, good evening, Paul. I took my son to the game, had a great time. Jackson Dart looks solid. Go Giants. Oh, I'm guessing he probably took him to the Bills game in Buffalo. Did not take them to the practice today. Okay, I don't blame you. Folks, it was one of the most enjoyable preseason games that I've ever attended. 34-25, 59 points in a preseason game, 4 lead changes late in the second half. It was a lot of fun. Aiden Fink says, good evening, Paul. Imad Perry. What do you say, my man? Good to talk to you again. Big Blue, look forward to the breakdown versus the just end the season Jets. Big Blue, you know what? I never heard that one before. That's kind of funny. Dante Miller reminds you of David Wilson. Wilson was much sturdier, much thicker. Different players. But yes, Miller and Wilson both have incredible speed that you cannot teach, and a third gear that just blows you away. Both guys could run like the wind. So anyway, you say you hope Miller makes the team. Hyatt, the plus weight hammy issues on the bubble. I don't think so, but I guess you can never say never, right? All right. Let's see what we can get to here in terms of today's practice report. 7-on-7s. Both days, the Giants' offense in 7-on-7 were really high-level football. Russell Wilson was incredible yesterday. He was really good again today. Had a nice pass to Bo Collins, who, by the way, also returned to practice. And that's important for him. Undrafted rookie free agent trying hard to make this team. They like him. As a wide receiver, he is definitely in the mix. There is no question about it. But he's also going to have to show himself on special teams, because that's what deep in the depth chart receivers need to do. He did not play against the Bills. So he's going to have to show something in the next 2 games. Jackson Dart hit little Jordan Humphrey for a touchdown today. Yeah. Same guy he connected with on his first ever NFL touchdown pass, albeit in a preseason game last weekend against the Buffalo Bills. Russell Wilson had some over-the-middle passes today to Wan'Dale Robinson and Tyrone Tracy. Also hit Darius Slayton on the sideline during 7-on-7. Yesterday they were sensational. Today they were good. So 7-on-7s went very well. That portion of practice was good for the Giants. Now the O-line, D-line drills. Well, yesterday was a terrific day for the Giants offensive line in the O-line, D-line drills. Terrific day. They dominated the O-line, D-line drills. The Jets responded today, and they had a healthy edge in the O-line, D-line drills. Now, on the other side, the D-line, O-line drills, that is the Giants' defensive line against the Jets' offensive line, Giants held an edge yesterday, not as significant as the offensive line's edge against the Jets' defenders, but the Giants' defensive line did hold an edge in that drill yesterday. Today, more even, but nonetheless, little bit of an edge perhaps for the Giants defensive. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused now. That's my fault. Let me go back. Yesterday, Giants offensive line dominated. Defensive line had an edge. Today, Giants defensive line lost. I thought the Jets O-line outplayed the Giants D-line in the offensive line, defensive line drills. The Giants offensive line beat the Jets defensive line for the second straight day. So if you want to classify that particular period as 4 points, 2 points yesterday, 2 points today, the Giants got 2 points yesterday, 1 point today. So 3 out of a possible 4 points, if you want to grade it that way, which might be the easiest way to decide how well it went. We go to the team portions. Now that's the 11-on-11s. Okay? That's when they actually line up. On one field, it's the Giants offense against the Jets defense. On the other field, it's the Jets premier offense against the Giants defense. So in the 11-on-11 team drills, the Jets won yesterday. Score a point for them. And I thought it was a rather decisive victory, as the Giants did not really do very well in the run game or the pass game in the standard 11-on-11 team drills. Today, it was a bit better. If you wanted to call it even, I suppose you could. So we'll say that's a draw. Here's what I do want to tell you, though, about the 11-on-11 team drills today at practice. Paulson Adebo was outstanding. The Giants made sure to line Adebo up opposite Garrett Wilson, the Jets all-pro wide receiver. And as I went through my notes, and it was very hard, to keep track of 2 fields at once, but we try our best. Sun is bright, glaring in your eyes. Eyes are burning from sweat and everything else. But trying to keep track of both fields. I had Paulson and Adebo shadowing Garrett Wilson all over the field today. And on one completion, which was short, Wilson was able to haul the ball in and gained a little bit of yardage. But I also saw 3 very clear attempts by Justin Fields, the Jets starting quarterback, to get the ball to Garrett Wilson. And Paulson Adebo was blanketing Wilson on all of these 3 passes that I'm talking about and had no chance to complete the pass. In fact, threw the ball awry of Wilson each time because Adebo had such tight coverage, there was no place for Justin Fields to put the ball. He simply had to throw it away. Paulson Adebo, and I spoke to Phil Simms about this earlier today. He had watched film on him when Adebo was with the Saints. He has been as impressive as can be since the first day he walked onto Giants campus. He's been terrific. He's simply been terrific. And the thing about it is, I get the fact that Tay Banks was inconsistent last season. I understand that. And when you're on the number 1 receiver as he was, those inconsistencies will become magnified. But Paulson Adebo is a legit CB1. There is no doubt in my mind from what I have seen. So now, Tay Banks gets to be CB2, at least for the time being. 13 snaps in Buffalo the other day. He gave up 1 completed pass to Joshua Palmer for 13 yards and a first down. That's it. He defended, I believe, 2 passes during the course of the day, including one where he squeezed the receiver right to the sideline, and he was only able to get 1 foot down in bounds because Banks gave him absolutely no room to maneuver and make a clean catch in bounds. That's the beauty of such a skilled and talented cornerback like Tay Banks. He uses the sideline very effectively. Remember, you're a defensive back. You don't have to knock the ball down or knock it away to achieve an incompletion. You can just as well suffocate the receiver to the point where he has no room and can't possibly get his 2 feet down in bounds. It still goes down as an incompletion. It doesn't matter how you do it. You just want to make sure that the offense does not get the gain. Banks did a great job on that play. So I'm very excited by Paulson Adebo, and I'm also excited about the potential impact that will have on Tay Banks. All right. So we told you in the 11-on-11 team drills, the Jets won yesterday. The Jets also won today. Now, highlight plays from the 11-on-11 team drills. Jameis Winston to Dylan Cambry, left side on a go route, long bomb down the sideline, connecting. Also, in the 11-on-11s, Russell Wilson to Greg Dulcich, right seam, 25-yard touchdown catch. Jackson Dart to Bo Collins, long bomb down the right sideline for 25 yards and a touchdown. Those were your key plays during the 11-on-11s offensively. Defensively, let's see here. Jets had a slew of incompletions, bunch of short passes, a bunch of runs. Let me continue. Enough of short to medium range passes that, again, I will give them the edge for the day. Kayvon Thibodeau did get in the backfield for a tackle for a loss. Let's see here. Not a whole lot in terms of spectacular defensive plays. There were certainly no interceptions. And from what I could tell from my notes, no batted balls at the line of scrimmage. So that's what we saw from the 11-on-11s during team drills today. Now, we go to the red zone. Russell Wilson scrambles behind left tackle and runs for a touchdown. I also have written down Russell Wilson to Gunnar Olszewski. He runs an out to the left side. He catches the pass for a touchdown. Jackson Dart scrambles behind left tackle, runs for a touchdown. The red zone drill, the Giants dominated yesterday. They won again today. Give them a point yesterday and a point today. Jackson Dart with the scramble around the left side for a touchdown. I may have mentioned that a moment ago. Thomas Fedoni catching a pass down at the 1-yard line. Might have been able to cross the goal line if they were playing full tackle. They were only playing thud, by the way. Fully padded practices with the Jets, but not tackling practice, okay? This was thud practices, which means you contact and lock into the guy, but you don't fully tackle him to the ground. I know, it is what it is. It's not the old days, folks, where people actually used to tackle in practice. They just don't do that these days anymore. Anyway, Fedoni, whether or not he would have made it in, I don't know, but he caught a pass down at the 1-yard line. Jonathan Ward runs behind right tackle. He runs in for a touchdown. Again, red zone. Giants dominated that, so they get the point today in that period. And then finally, okay, we go to the 2-minute drill. Each team was entitled to put their starting offense on the field. The Giants went first. The Jets went second. Russell Wilson with a pass to Wan'Dale Robinson, then to Tyrone Tracy, then to Theo Johnson, then to Wan'Dale Robinson. But they were all short passes. Then a Russell Wilson scramble. Giants are working their way down the field, but the clock was short. He had to spike a ball. He had to scramble again. And then Jude McAtamney was short on a 60-yard field goal for their final play of the 2-minute drill. Jets, they then had their shot at the 2-minute drill. I'm going to say this is a draw because neither team scored any points. They get nothing early on. Motion penalty. They get a short pass to the left side. They get an incompletion. They get a short dump over the middle to the tight end. Another short dump over the middle to the tight end. Then there's Paulson Adebo knocking the ball away, left sideline, intended for Garrett Wilson. Adebo all over it. Then another incompletion to the right side, intended for Garrett Wilson. And now on 4th down, the Jets were forced to potentially try like a 65 or 70-yard field goal. They decided not to do it. They blew off the play and decided to end the practice. So the Giants did win the red zone drill, and I'll call the 2-minute drill a draw. So kind of a split decision, but I'd give the Giants the edge overall over the course of the 2 days, but there were certainly things that Coach Brian Daboll wants to clean up. He made that very clear earlier today when he had his press briefing before the practice. So that shouldn't surprise anybody. Okay? Let's see what you guys have for me in the chat, or maybe a phone call or audio call. Mark B, how you doing? Says, good camp, encouraging to say the least. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mark, it is encouraging. There's hope. There's optimism. There's enthusiasm. There's a lot of good vibes right now enveloping New York Giants training camp. I don't know if you caught me earlier today on the Big Blue Kickoff live show, but one of the things that I said, and I mean this, Giants opened the season on the road with Washington and Dallas. If you want this good vibe to carry over emotionally and psychologically for this team into the season, well, they got to avoid a buzzkill. Now, what is the best way to buzzkill this entire offseason of positive emotions and sunnier outlooks? What's the best buzzkill? You guys know exactly what it is. If you lose to Washington and Dallas on the road, 0-2 to open the season, and then have to come home to play Kansas City. That's the best way to be a buzzkill to all of the positive vibe, energy, and enthusiasm that is running through the hallways at the Giants training complex. We always talk about it, right? Everybody wants to get off to a good start. Everybody wants to get off to a good start when they start the season. Nobody wants to start off with losses. But if you're the Giants and you've only made the playoffs twice since the 2011 Super Bowl season, and you've had an awful lot of difficulty, even being a competitive 500 team for most of the past decade, you need, it is mandatory that you have a good vibe going into the season, and then you try to gain some momentum out of it. I'm going to make it very simple, folks. It's about as close as mandatory as it can get for the Giants to win one of those first 2 games. I know it sounds so foolish. Nobody wants to talk about a must-win in weeks 1 or 2. Nobody wants to talk about that. It sounds so foolish. It sounds so pointless. But this team right now really likes each other. They're having a tremendous amount of fun. They're supportive of each other. They're accountable to each other. They've got a terrific mix of leaders and of youth. A much stronger mix of talent than they've had in a few years. There's a lot going on that's right at New York Giants training camp right now. An awful lot that's going right. The last thing in the world they need is a buzzkill. Because they could really use some psychological and emotional momentum. And beating either Washington or Dallas on the road, or maybe even beating both of them, would be exactly what the doctor ordered. And give this team an extra shot of adrenaline that could really make a difference. But we'll see. We'll see. But that's for another time. Because you know what? They don't play Washington until September 7th. And according to my watch, this is only August the 13th. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay. Mark B says, exciting for the 2025 New York Giants. A lot of people are. People say Russell Wilson can't run. He moves pretty well to me when he has to. Mark B, you're right. Okay? You're right. I don't know how many other of the training camp practices you've been at. I know I saw you at one for sure. We took a photo. He's not the same Russell Wilson who was with the Seattle Seahawks 10 years ago. You know, he's not the same guy who took them to 2 Super Bowls and won 1. He is a little bit slower. The legs aren't quite as fast. They aren't quite as nimble. But yes, he can still move effectively. He can still throw on the run effectively. What has he lost physically? He's lost a little bit of juice in those legs, and he's lost a little bit of juice off of the football. He still throws a great spiral. He could still accurately throw any throw on the field, any route that you want to run. Deep, intermediate, short. He could still throw it on a line drive with a spiral and get it exactly where it's got to go. Does it have a little bit less velocity on it than when he was in his prime? Sure. Sure. It's not the same fastball that it was then, but it's plenty good and it's plenty effective. We've seen it. You know, over the years, and I've covered a ton of football, I've seen quarterbacks who, in their mid to late 30s or into their 40s, there is a noticeable difference in their arm strength. And there are certain throws they just can't make effectively at the NFL level anymore. That is not where Russell Wilson is. Let me assure you of that. Now, it's only August. Okay? It's only August. Come December, in the cold, depending upon how beaten up he is, depending on how much they've thrown the ball, maybe we will start to see some of that wear. Supposedly in Pittsburgh, that did show up a little bit. But, heck, get me there. Get me there with a healthy Russell Wilson and a competitive New York Giants team deep into December. I'm fine with that. And if at that point his arm starts to show a little bit of a weak battery, okay, fine. Sign me up. I'm good. So I don't want you folks to think that I've ignored his age or I've ignored the fact that he's not the same physical player that he was with the Seahawks, because I'm not ignoring that. But what I do see is a quality quarterback who can still do everything that's in the playbook. That's what the Giants signed him for. Hey, we got a star from Tuto and the Italian rugby team. He's back with us again. And of course, as I always do, thank you, Tuto. Hope all is well. Absolutely. Always appreciating Tuto, who is one of our super chat users. Much love and respect to Big Paulie, New York Giants media legend. Well, that's awfully kind. Greetings from our entire rugby club in Italy. Our season opponent next Friday. Please pray for my victims, mate. as he always says. You got to love Tudo, right? Because we know he's a man's man and he's tougher than nails. And we know about rugby. Oh, if you've ever seen that on TV, these guys really go at it. And they are really, really rugged. I mean, I don't know if that's why they called it rugby. Tudo, you're going to have to tell me. But rugged guys play rugby. I think we can all agree with that. And he's always with us. One of our most loyal listeners for sure. Always chimes in with a super chat. And we always appreciate, 100% of the time, we appreciate him, his team, and all of those folks out there, especially in Europe, who have become Giants fans. And I know that's not an easy thing to do right now with the team not playing well for the last several years. But it's awesome to have the fan base spread out like this. And certainly we always wish the Italian rugby team, the club, the Italian Rugby Club, we hope that they have a very successful and healthy season as well. Tudo, again, thank you so much. All right, let's see what else we have here. I have Big Blue says, talk about buzz. Win the first two. No doubt. Win the first two? Big Blue, do you want to take a guess what winning the first two games would do around the Meadowlands? It would be like the world's most gigantic beehive covered in giant yellow jackets. The buzz would be deafening in the Meadowlands if the Giants should knock off Washington and Dallas on the road to start the season. But let's not get ahead of ourselves right now. If you want to dream, I'll let you dream. But right now, let's worry about the 53-man roster. Mark B says he has been to 8 practices. Mark B, you got your hands on training camp tickets for 8 practices. I am impressed. All right, let's see here. All right, that's it for our chats for the moment. We are 42 minutes into the program. Again, if you have a question or a comment, you can hit me up in the chat box, or you can get to the link below and get me with an audio or a video call. Now, let's get some business out of the way, okay? Giants going to have a walkthrough practice tomorrow. They lightened it up a little bit after 2 physical practices against the Jets yesterday and today. Tomorrow would have been what they call a carded practice. I've discussed that with you before. That would have been what they were going to do tomorrow. That's not going to be the case now. They're only going to do a walkthrough in preparation for the Jets game, giving their bodies a little chance to kind of relax a little bit. Folks, if you're not from the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area, because I know the World Wide Web goes everywhere, and I have no idea where you guys are tuning in from when you click onto this program. It was gorgeous yesterday down at Florham Park at the Jets practice facility. It must have been about 85 degrees, crystal clear skies, sunny, 30% humidity. It was warm, but it was just a beautiful summer day. Low humidity means it was dry. Just had a glorious afternoon at Jets practice. Well, we come back to the Giants hosting practice today, and we have about 90 degrees, 83% humidity. I mean, you talk about night and day. Well, let's see. Temperature was about the same, and the bright sunshine was out, so That's about where the consistency ends, because the humidity was stifling today at Giants practice. And in any event, it was hot, it was tiring, and I think that's probably why Brian Daboll has decided, and we didn't find this out until everybody left the facility today. The message came through that tomorrow is going to be just a walkthrough practice, and the Giants are going to do some Zooms to help the media out tomorrow so that we can still get a chance to talk to Brian Daboll and maybe still talk to a couple of players. But no, they changed stuff up. Oh, what do we have here? Tudo has come back with another super chat. Paulie, only crazy-minded freaks play rugby, Union mate. The ultimate physical sport. The only way they retire is when they physically become disabled. Okay, as I said, and Tudo would second and third this in a heartbeat. Rugged people play rugby. There is no doubt about that. It is part of the definition. If you are not rugged, you need not apply for the roster. Tudo, thank you so much again. We appreciate you. Big Blue says, Deonte Miller reminds me of David Wilson. I thought we mentioned that earlier. I don't know why that's coming back again. I guess you might have hit the save get, Big Blue, because you also sent it to me a third time. I will say this. If Deonte Turbo Miller is going to make the Giants as a fourth running back, and by the way, there's no doubt he is the fourth running back in terms of the depth chart. How many do you keep? You know they're going to keep Tracy and Scatterboo and Singletary. That's a lock. You got three. Will you keep the fourth on the active 53, or will you hope to get him onto the practice squad? I firmly believe that Deonte Miller belongs in the building. If they decide that they can't keep him on the 53, well, then I really, really, really hope that he can be signed to the practice squad again this season. Hopefully for him, he'll get to be on the 53. But that means you have to keep four running backs. And it also means that you're going to have to probably shave somebody off at another position on the roster. Again, Brian Daboll explained this the other day, and I hope everybody heard it. And it's true every year, or virtually every year. You don't just compete against the other guys on the depth chart at your position. When you're deep on the depth chart, you're also competing against guys at other positions who are also deep on the depth chart. Are the Giants going to keep 3 or 4 tight ends, 3 or 4 running backs, 5 or 6 wide receivers, 9 or 10 offensive linemen? These are the problems you have when you configure your final 53. It's not just about the depth chart at each position. It's about, okay, the last guy on the depth chart at several of these positions is actually fighting the last guy on the depth chart at another position. And Brian Daboll made it very clear that if you're going to be the fourth running back, or the sixth receiver, or the fourth tight end, you have to be able to give this team something on special teams. You have no choice. If you can't do that, chances are you're not going to make it. This is why you have seen Montrell Washington get some reps on special teams. This is why you have seen Gunnar Olszewski get reps on special teams. They are trying to give these guys opportunities to earn their way onto the 53 by giving them additional responsibilities on specials. Bo Collins is in the same boat. Bo Collins is going to have to give the Giants something on specials in the next 2 games. He did not play against Buffalo. Yeah, I think he's good enough to make a 53 roster in the NFL. I do believe that. But he's not going to do it here unless he gives them something on special teams. We talked about that today on the Big Blue Kickoff Live show. Collins, Olszewski, Washington, Cambry, Dylan Cambry, he's another one of them. I think those 4 wide receivers are fighting for one spot. Now, if Bryce Ford Wheaton did not get hurt and pop his Achilles, he would have been the 6th receiver. And there would be no competition between these other 4 guys. In my mind, it's those 4 guys fighting for potentially one spot. It would have been Ford Wheaton had he not gotten hurt. But now he's out for the season. Big Blue says these are finally good problems, save for tight end wide receiver. Yeah. And in the running back spot, I don't think there's a competition. I think Dante Miller's number 4, and he played specials the other day in Buffalo. He had a kick return. He also was in on a tackle on the coverage units. Brian Daboll said he was the offensive player of the game, caught all 7 of his targets for 80 yards, was deadly on the screen, did a great job on the screen pass. I believe he converted 4 first downs of like 10 yards or more during the course of the day. He was terrific. Great start for Turbo Miller. But he's got to keep it up. Not just as a running back, but on specials these next 2 weeks if he's going to make it. One other guy in the chat, and then I'm going to go to Aiden. I see he's making a video call. We love video calls. Mark B says, Paul, when do the players vote for captains? That's not until they get to the final roster. The 53-man roster has to be in on August the 26th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark B says, I see Burns being one. I absolutely do. I think him and Dexter are going to be co-captains on defense. Mark B says, hope they don't have 10 or more captains. For me, it gets diluted. 8 should be more than enough. Well, I'm good with 2 on offense, 2 in defense, and 2 on specials. I think 6 are enough. I don't think you have to go more than 6. All right. Thank you, Mark. Let's go to Aiden.
Hey.
Aiden joins us on the Big Blue Breakdown. How are you, my man?
I'm good. Can you hear me good? I know you've had some tech issues lately.
Not tonight. I hear you all loud and clear.
All right. Yeah, I haven't given you a video call in a while, so thought I'd do it tonight.
That's fine. What would you like to tell us about?
Well, first I want to ask you, because I mean, optimism's pretty high. It looks like everything's good in practice. How do you compare right now, like how the Giants are doing, the first preseason game, all the practices and everything compared to last year? Because last year seemed pretty positive, and then we all know how the season went.
Aiden, the best way for me to describe this is that the talent level on this roster is far better and deeper than what we've seen the last few years. We know
Mhm.
that. The good news is they're actually showing it to us during practice. You
Yeah.
know, in the last couple of years, we've seen receivers shine at times. We've seen the secondary shine at times. But, and then we may be able to see the pass rush, occasionally shine at times. Very rarely did we see full practices where every unit looked like they were having a good day.
Mhm.
That hasn't happened a lot in the last few years. It's happened a lot this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, and now you're talking about like, do you are we gonna be able to keep four guys at this position and things around that line, and before that you like I feel like you could narrow down who's getting cut more.
Right. I agree with that. The more trouble you have identifying the back end of the depth chart, the better your team is going to be. That's
Mm-hmm.
just common sense, right? Now, here's what I will tell you as well. The Giants, since the days of Bill Parcells, who, by the way, believed there was actually psychological value in winning during the preseason. Bill Bill Parcells put a priority on winning preseason games.
So like we start the starters like 4 games back then.
He used to play them a lot more, but a lot of coaches did in those days. But here's the thing. He believed in that whole theory that you practice how you play.
Mm-hmm.
So Bill's idea was if you play preseason games and you you develop habits that are good, you make plays that are good, you have unity and chemistry on the field that's good, and it all leads to you winning those preseason games. It will have players itching to continue to do those things once they get to the regular season. You follow?
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
very much about good practice habits. In other words, extending that into good preseason snaps will lead to quality regular season snaps. That's what Bill Parcells believed. If you will go back and look at his preseason record, I want to say he won like over 70%, I think, of his
Wow.
preseason games. He believed in winning those games. Now, not at all costs. He didn't play all of his starters all the way through. There were still times in the fourth quarter, back end of the depth chart guys were in. But he coached those guys very seriously and would use it, he would employ strategy in those games to make sure they won if they could.
Yeah. So we like treat it
Today's
just
coaches don't do that, Aiden.
no. I mean, they're just trying to get like guys who aren't even gonna make the roster. They're getting a lot of snaps, especially like the third game now, and they're trying to get the rookies some action, but it's really like the starters really aren't getting that many snaps.
Well, usually, very often in the fourth quarter of these games, coaches will just say, all right, we're putting in the whole back end of the roster, all the guys who are going to get cut. And oh, by the way, we're going to keep the clock running. We're just going to hand the ball off. We're going to run the simplest plays. We're going to run safe short passes. And they're not really doing anything to try to win the game. They're trying to get the game over with so that they don't have any injuries and they can get the heck out of the stadium clean. That's what most coaches feel like today.
Mm-hmm.
So their purpose doesn't include anything about winning the game.
No.
Bill felt otherwise. He's in the Hall of Fame. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Tom Coughlin was less about winning preseason games than Bill Parcells. He also won 2 Super Bowls like Bill, and he will eventually go into the Hall of Fame. So I'm not telling you there's a right or a wrong answer here, but what I can tell you is that over the last decade or so, as the Giants have scuffled through many of these seasons, their preseason games have been ugly. The depth chart hasn't been very good.
No.
They've been playing a lot of guys who had no chance of making it into the NFL. And they certainly, none of the coaches of the last decade put any kind of thought or premium into winning preseason games.
I mean, remember like that long streak the Ravens had of winning preseason games? So I mean, they must have. I mean, John Harbaugh is a great coach.
He also subscribes to the philosophy that Parcells had about winning in the preseason helps you develop winning habits, winning chemistry. You know, Bill used to tell us all the time, hey, fellas, when the guys win, they feel good. They want that feeling again. Teach them what it's like to win. Teach them how great it is to win. Teach them how much fun it is to win. And they'll keep trying harder and harder to keep winning. That was Bill's thinking. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. You make a great point. I think over the last decade, I'm pretty sure the Baltimore Ravens, if they don't have the best winning percentage in the preseason, they're right up there. It's a hardball belief. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm glad you brought that up. That was very astute of you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had such a good time in Buffalo on Saturday because it was a fun game. We saw exciting plays. We saw 4 lead changes late in the game. 4 lead changes.
Now that just needs to translate to the regular season.
Well, you know, it was clear. Did you watch the game Saturday?
Of course, yeah.
It was clear both of these teams, even though they were playing depth chart guys, you could tell in the fourth quarter, both teams were trying to win. It was fun.
I mean, yeah, it was back and forth game.
So, you're asking me what's different? I think what's different is this isn't the same old, okay, the back of the depth chart's very weak. We're not sure who some of the starters are. We know the back of the depth chart, these guys are not making the team. Nobody cares. There's no competition for some of these backup jobs because these guys are just not very good. Ho-hum, let's just watch the fourth quarter play out. That's what we've seen in recent years.
Yeah, not this year. I mean,
not this year.
On the
you know why, Aiden? Because the guys who were playing in the fourth quarter the other day, and a lot of them probably still won't make the team, but they were fighting to make it because they know that this is a better roster. And they had to play hard. They had to try to do whatever they could to win the game because it was going to help their chances of maybe squeaking into the back end of the 53. That's the difference. It's noticeable. I don't think, again, maybe lightning's going to strike me. Who knows? But I don't think you're going to see a boring 13-10 game Saturday at MetLife Stadium.
No, I think I feel like they're gonna score in the 20s or 30s. I feel like.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I mean, each quarterback gave a scoring drive at least. Even Russell Wilson, the
Wilson had the opening drive led him to a field goal, and then
DeVito,
each one of the QBs afterwards, Dart, Winston, and DeVito, each led the Giants on a touchdown drive. Man, what more could you ask for if you wanted to enjoy the game? Here's a great question. everybody
Sure.
watching the show tonight, I would love for you. I don't know how many of you even watch the full 4 quarters, because I'm sure a lot of you don't watch the full 4 quarters of preseason football. And probably with good reason. I just told you, especially with the Giants, many of these preseason games in recent years have been really boring. They've just been really hard to watch. But how many of you watched all 4 quarters on Saturday and could say, you know what, that was fun? I had a good time. It was exciting. I'm glad I got to watch all 4 quarters of that game because that was pretty good football. I'd love to know. Guys, give me a call, give me a video call, audio call, hit me up in the chat. Tell me, how many of you people watched all 4 quarters and were glad that you did? And I'm going to tell you, if you look yourself in the mirror, you'll be able to tell yourself that you haven't done that too often in the last 10 years. Hey, what else can I do for you tonight?
Yeah, can I talk to you about this article I read the other day on ESPN?
Sure, go ahead, throw it out at me.
So this actually upset me a lot. You know, it was on NFL future power rankings, and they ranked the Giants 31st. And they had like towards the bottom, like it's going off overall roster minus QB coaching, front office. I don't get like how you could say that like the Giants with the moves they made and everything. And it said like Louis Riddick said his concern is about the quarterback in pairing with whether it start if he works out in developing him in whether Brian Daboll is going to stay. And they have a bold prediction for each of them. This is, you know, the phony one that everybody's saying about Arch Manning 2027.
Aiden, listen. I'm going to tell you something that I've said to everybody who's listened to me, either on this show or Big Blue Kickoff Live. I'm going to say it again. For those national media who are labeling the Giants as a poor football team, they're going off of last year, and they have not been to Giants training camp. They have not been to the practice facility once during this calendar year. Because if they had been and had seen what's going on here, had seen the talent, had seen the attitude, had felt the buzz, you could not come to the conclusion that these people are putting out there, either in print or on the airwaves. You can tell immediately if a national media person has been to East Rutherford to watch the Giants practice. If they have, they're telling you about a different atmosphere. They're telling you about the buzz. They're telling you about the optimism. They're telling you about the improvement in talent. And they're telling you that the Giants could be a surprise team this year that, you know what? They're going to be competitive and they're going to be a tough opponent to play every week. That's what those people are telling you.
You think even like high media like ESPN, you feel like they're even like that's like some of the top insiders and stuff. I mean, like ESPN, I mean, they always show, like if you watch SportsCenter, they're always showing like they're always giving like reports from different training camps and stuff. Because like, I mean, like you don't know what Dart's gonna be though, but like what do you think about like the QB coach pairing, like, you know, like if this season doesn't go like I mean we have the hardest schedule, as you know, and
yeah, Aiden, I'm not telling you the Giants are going to win enough of games to make the playoffs.
I know, I agree with that too.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying it is a much better team than last year, and it's a much better team than people who have not seen the team profess it to be. Look, you know what this is like? Honestly, this is like if I said to you, Aiden, do you like alligator meat? And you said to me, oh, I hate it. And I said, okay, have you tried it? Have you tasted it? And you say, no, I just know I hate it. Well, I'm sorry, but you don't know because you never had it. It's the same principle.
And you think these insiders are all basing it off of last season, and they're not even basing it off like what's happened in the off season. I mean, they highlight. I mean, this article they're saying all the positives with like the Giants pass rush and like their draft and everything, but I don't get like how they would have them so low.
You're right. Look, we all believe that defense wins championships and that that's the best way for a team to compete. What I find incredibly laughable, and by the way, all right, let me finish this point with you first.
Sure.
And then I'm going to go off on a tangent. To finish the point, if defense is the best way for a team to win, and even the naysayers who kick the Giants down into the dirt and say they're a bottom feeder of this league, even those people usually have glowing things to say about the defense. Oh, this defense is going to be much better. This defense has a great pass rush. This defense has Dexter Lawrence, could be a defensive player of the year. Brian Burns was a Pro Bowl alternate last year. They added Abdul Carter. He could be dominating. Well, excuse me? You tell me the defense helps you win. You praise this defense as potentially being a top 10 in the league, and then you say the team stinks.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So, Aiden, it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
No.
When if you read what these people say and write, they're telling you 2 + 2 = 3. It doesn't make sense. Now, to get off on my tangent,
Yeah.
I was with Brian Baldinger today, who was at Giants practice with the Jets because he was there for NFL Network. Baldy's already been, I think, 3 different times during this offseason. He's been to the Giants. You've seen Baldy's breakdowns on Twitter.
Yeah, I've seen in the.
Let me ask you one simple question. Does he sound really optimistic about this team?
Yes.
Okay. He's been here 3 times in the offseason. He has seen it with his own eyes. I don't want to pick on Louis Riddick, but he's never been here.
No. What are your have you seen any of his articles in the past?
I've seen him. I know who he is. I understand his credentials. And I also understand that these national folks don't have time to visit every training camp.
I mean, the Giants do have like reporters from ESPN there.
You know, I get it. I do. I understand that. The national media, they get asked for an opinion. They come up with an opinion. They can't be traveling around to 32 different NFL training camps to get the real story, to really present to the rest of the country how much a team has improved, digressed, or maybe if they truly have stayed the same. They don't have realistically the logistics to be able to do that. So I get that.
Yeah.
But of course, because they're national media, they've got to have an opinion. They've got to get asked about it. They got to fill up the talk shows. So,
yeah, they
basically, they put on the sunglasses, they turn off the lights, and they just start shooting off their mouths. And they don't know what they're talking about because they haven't been to campus to see. Anyway, Aiden, that's all I got time for right now. I want to try to see if we can get to some of these chats.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you, my friend. You be good.
All right.
Bye. All right. I hate getting on my soapbox sometimes, people, but you kind of have to, because it would be like, in all honesty, it would be like if someone said to me, Paul, what do you think about the Los Angeles Rams this year? Well, I have a cursory opinion. Matt Stafford's back problem, that's a problem. Jimmy Garoppolo is there as a backup. Good for them. You know I like Jimmy G. But outside of taking a glance at their schedule, taking a glance at their additions and subtractions from last year, do I know how good or how bad the Los Angeles Rams are looking at training camp? I haven't been there. I'm not watching practice. So I'm going to have to give a very, very distant, general, and shallow opinion of the Los Angeles Rams if someone were to ask me about them. What I could do is call up somebody who has been there, talk to them about it, and then I can say, oh, I've talked to someone who's been there, someone who's educated, who I respect, who understands the game, and I've heard this, that, and the other thing. That would be okay. That would be legitimate. That would be honest. Honesty in reporting. That's kind of a lost concept these days. And I feel bad for a lot of fans out there because you're not getting firsthand, honest reporting in a lot of cases. I just implore you, if you want to get legitimate information about how the Giants look, listen to the Brian Baldingers, listen to the Judy Batistas, listen to the Peter Schregers, listen to I haven't seen Albert Breer, but once so far this offseason, but listen to him. I've seen Ian Rappaport, once this year. You know, the guys, the national guys who have come here to see what's going on, those are the people that you should be listening to. All right. Let's go. Isaac Moore. You want to hear a great stat, he says. Last time a repeat division winner went back-to-back in the East, NFC East, 2004, 20 years ago. I know, Isaac. You know what? I understand that teams don't repeat in this division. I understand that. But that's also history. You can learn from history. History can sometimes repeat itself. But you got to put more stock in the hard work, the process, the rosters than you put into history when you're going to decide who should win the NFC East. Look, I haven't been to Dallas, Philly, and Washington training camps. I've talked to people who have. I have studied the rosters. I have looked at the new faces and the guys who were shipped out. I do have opinions about people like Jaden Daniels who are going to be playing their second year in the NFL. And I do think that coordinators will do more to catch up to him this year. But my very lighthearted opinion is that the Philadelphia Eagles are still the most talented team in the division, and they should be considered the team to beat in the NFC East. That just seems pretty forthright and obvious. Yeah, I know. Duh, right? They won the Super Bowl. And Dottino was saying that the Eagles should be considered the team to beat in the East. They just won the Super Bowl. Duh. I understand. Yes, I totally understand that. It just happens to be that position by position, they have the most talent in the division. And they have the experience of being a champion. It would be really hard to find logic to go against them right now in the NFC East. It would be hard. Isaac Moore talking about the Eagles again, division champs from 2000 to 2004. Danny Duds, now that number 8, Daniel Jones, is long gone, what was your honest opinion? I thought he always stunk. Now that he's gone, this team has life. I am a believer in Daniel Jones. I think the situation crumbled around him, and then he crumbled as well. I've said all along he will have a renaissance. I also said from the second that he signed with the Indianapolis Colts, he will win that job. I still believe that for week 1 opening day. And I believe he will win some games for the Colts. And I think that Daniel Jones will be heard from as a winning quarterback in the National Football League over the next several years to come. Isaac Moore says any team in the NFC East can take it. There's a reason it's the toughest division in football. Paul, you're a great throwback and a treasure to the Giants family. Well, that's awfully nice, Isaac. I appreciate that. Danny Duds, Paul, you're a master of the art of talking a lot while saying very little. Well, Danny, you look an awful lot like Bert from Sesame Street. I don't know, are you perhaps even uglier than that? Don't know. But there's got to be a reason that you decided to make that your logo instead of your real picture, right? Peter Ferrone says Giants Buffalo replays now on NFL Network. Well, there you go. For those of you who haven't seen it, take a look. Sean Jackson. Good evening, Paul. My son and I were at Giants-Jets joint practice earlier today. I saw you at the Saturday, August 2nd training camp, but somehow didn't see you today. Oh, no, believe me. I was actually in between the two fields because that's the best way to see what's going on simultaneously on both. If I had been over by the bleachers, by the fence, that was originally the bleachers, the field where the Jets started to practice. The Giants warmed up, as you know, on the far field by the field house. Then when they did the units practicing together, they were on both fields. So I was in the middle of the two fields, and there were a whole host of bodies there in the middle. So that's why you wouldn't have seen me, because I would have gotten lost in the shuffle there. Kayvon Thibodeau, quiet both times. He made a couple of plays today. A little bit of jawing he had with one of the Jets earlier this afternoon. Also got into a little bit of a jawing, I believe, yesterday as well during one of the sessions. But yes, on the whole, I did not think that Thibodeau was very impactful in the two practices. Now, he's had a terrific offseason to this point, but a little quiet the last 2 days. I would concur with that opinion, Sean. Mark B laughs out loud. Okay. Shivi Mizrahi says, yeah, see, so he can hide. Oh, I'm sure that's referring to our dear friend Bert. All right, let's see. And he comes back and says, Giants will win 7, maybe 8. You know, I've been telling people who have been like insisting that I give them a number. I don't come out with a record prediction till the 53-man roster is finalized. But I think it's really very reasonable, despite what looks to be a brutal schedule, that the Giants will win between 6 and 8 games this year. I think that's a reasonable estimate. I really do. And so I don't think you're out of line at all. Defense is elite. Well, we'll have to see. I think they easily could be a top 10 defense and maybe even a little higher. But they got to prove it. Brian Burns said that today. Okay? Brian Burns said that today. The talk is great. It's really cool, but they got to go out there and earn it. Also saying, Tisvi says, but compete for the division. We are a year away. Says also, I don't mind kids playing hard schedule, turns kids into men for 2026. Well, yeah. I mean, see, the idea here, and it's always been, and also says here, that's how you build character. Thank you, Paul. You're great. Well, I appreciate that. You, again, very kind words. I appreciate you for tuning into the program and participating. See, Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll, but Joe Schoen in particular, since he's the GM, the idea is not to do what happened in 16, make a quick strike, sign 3 or 4 free agents, make the playoffs, and then the team kind of falls apart. Now, we all know, it's been talked about by Joe Schoen himself, maybe in 2022, some things just fell into place, and fate had it that the Giants would shock the world, make the playoffs, win a road playoff game against a highly ranked Minnesota Vikings team, and then, of course, get hammered in Philadelphia. And maybe they were legitimately a full stride ahead of schedule, right? Maybe that's true. Joe Schoen has said as much. And it's okay. All right, so the Giants were ahead of schedule. They wound up giving every one of their fans a huge thrill in 2022. They did. And you all enjoyed it. Don't tell me you didn't. Because you all enjoyed the 2022 season. The bad news is, well, certain decisions had to be made off of that season. Certain judgments had to be made. And what happened? Things fell apart, and the next 2 seasons went downhill. Well, now they're trying to pick themselves up off the ground. And Joe Schoen doesn't want to pick this team up only to have them stumble, trip, and fall flat on their faces again. If I could say to you, and maybe this is a great question for all of you out there. We have almost 1,000 people, okay? We have almost 1,000 people watching the show right now. Let me ask you this. If I said to you that the football genies up in the sky were going to give you a playoff spot for the Giants this season, but the next 2 seasons, in 26 and in 27, you're going to go back to winning 6 games or less. Would you take that? A playoff season in 25, not a Super Bowl, just a playoff season in 25, and no more than 6 wins in either 26 or 27. Would you take that? Would you sign up for that if you were a fan of your favorite team? Doesn't have to be the Giants. This is a Giants show. You're all Giants fans. But would any fan sign up for that deal? Because that's what happened with the Giants in 2022. They got a playoff spot that nobody expected. And the next 2 years, they fell on their faces. So if I could sign a contract with football genies, rub the magic bottle, playoff spot this year, next 2 years, terrible. You just went through that exact same scenario for the last 3 seasons. Would you take that again? A repeat of the last 3 seasons. Would you take that? Or would you rather this team do what Joe Schoen's trying to do and build a roster that he is planning on being a contender for a playoff spot in each of the next 3 to 4 seasons. Because that's what teams do. General managers look at their roster and they plan them out in 3-year blocks. This, right now, with the age of the roster, the key components in certain spots, the youth, the development, the draft picks of the past 2 seasons, this is the beginning of another 3-year block for the Giants. So I ask you, would you rather they be competitive this year and maybe fight real hard and be in the playoff mix in 26 and 27? Or would you rather make the playoffs this year and fall on your face the next 2? I think it's a pretty easy choice. Now, what do we have? What do we have? Isaac Moore says, as the saying goes, one game at a time. Each week has a life of its own. Danny Duds, just for some reason, I guess he still likes to be involved in the program, even though he obviously seems to be very dissatisfied with things. He still wants to be part of the program. So God bless you, Danny. Thanks for the ratings. We appreciate it. He says, I'm just happy we finally have a quarterback we can believe in. Only took 6 years. Well, I'm glad you can smile about something. That's good news. We like people to be happy on this program. Okay. James O'Keefe. Hey, Paul, I asked earlier, I guess you didn't see how much time you see starters playing this weekend. James, I went through that whole scenario. I'm not sure. I personally would like to see them play part of the first quarter again. I really would. At least a series or 2. But that's just me. That's the way I've always felt. It's my long-standing philosophy. Brian Daboll was on board with that last week in Buffalo. I don't know how he's going to feel this week. Again, here's what makes it tricky. The third preseason game is on Thursday. They got a short week. They play Saturday, then they play Thursday again. So that could impact some of what he's thinking in terms of how much and who plays. Howard Owen says playoff season in 25 is delusional. You totally missed the point of the hypothetical. I'm not telling you they're going to make the playoffs in 2025. I'm asking you hypothetically, would you rather them made the playoffs in 25 and had 2 bad seasons afterwards? That's the whole point, Howard Owens. I'm sorry that you didn't understand it. But that was the question. Mark B says, hell no, I would not take that. There you go. I agree with you, Mark B. I wouldn't take that either. All right. Danny Dodd says they re-signed the wrong guy. Should have tagged DJ, re-signed Saquon. That's I don't think many fans would have lost sleep losing DJ. 15 touchdowns, 16. You know what, my man? They tried to. They offered Saquon contract after contract, and he kept turning them down. Saquon Barkley put the Giants in the only position that they could be in to make any possibilities work. They were backed into a corner. They had no chance to do anything else. There were no options because Barkley kept turning them down. They had to do the franchise tag and then sign Daniel Jones. If you want to say they re-signed the wrong guy, well, here's where you got to really put the blame on the running back who refused to cooperate and allow them to do anything else except for the path that they eventually had to choose. Danny, I'm sorry if you cannot come to grips with that, and I'm sorry if you don't understand it. But that's the reality of how the business plan worked. The running back's refusal to do a fair deal, and by the way, the deal that he signed with the Eagles had been offered to him by the Giants a year and a half earlier, and he turned it down, and then wound up taking it from the Eagles later on after the fact. So that's the other thing that people don't really explain to you, is that they weren't trying to shortchange him. He did not want to be here. It's obvious by not taking fair offers that he had been given. And he forced them into doing what they had to do. So if you really want to be angry at anybody, well, there you go. Jonathan Studios says, so how do you get John Mara to give Shane Daboll a 3-year extension and guarantee that Dart gets the development he needs and the regime isn't looking over his shoulders and quiet the Riddics? Well, here's the thing, Jonathan. We're just going to go till 9:45. We'll do an hour and a half tonight, okay? An hour and 45 minutes. And then we're going to sign off for the night. So we're going to go a little longer. We're over 1,000 live views. So, again, another 1,000 tonight. We love when we break 1,000 on these shows. It's just it's a testament to the fans and your interest in what it is that we're trying to talk about. It's really simple. If the Giants produce this season, because the results are ultimately what's going to decide it, Jonathan, unfortunately, the results are what you get graded on, right? Now, when I say results, I'm talking about the performance on the field. I'm not talking about the win-loss results. Okay? The Giants' record is not as important as their performance when it comes to the future of these two guys. If the Giants show that they are a much better football team and play a bunch of very tightly contested games against teams that make the playoffs but lose a few heartbreakers, and their record is a few games under 500, yes, everybody's going to be disappointed. Make no mistake about that. And ownership will too. But they will have the understanding that, you know what? Just like everybody has said for months, the Giants' schedule is murder. Well, you can't have it both ways, folks. You can't tell everybody that they've got the most difficult schedule in the league, that the schedule is impossible, and that they can't possibly make the playoffs or have a winning record because the schedule is going to destroy their hopes. You can't say all of that for 7 months, and then when they finish 6-11, if they do, oh, coach and GM have to go. They did a terrible job. The team stinks. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. What matters is how the team performs, not the final win-loss record as much. It does not. Sean Jackson. Yes, it was hot out there today, Paul, but it was worth it. I'm looking forward to Abdul Carter's impact, and I think Newman is going to have a major increase in production. At least our fans outnumbered Jets fans. Well, that's because it was a Giants practice with Giants tickets into the practice. Just like yesterday, there were very few blue shirts down at Florham Park. You know, it just means you picked the right practice to go to if you're a Giants fan, that's all. Some Giants fans were able to get tickets to the Jets practice yesterday. And that's great. Look, anytime, especially if you're not a season ticket holder and you don't get a chance to go to the games, to get to go to training camp and to see a practice is a big deal. It's fun. And if you're a kid, oh man, so many kids. I see so many young children coming to the training camp practices and they have a blast. I know when I was a kid, oh man, are you kidding me? To go to a football practice or see batting practice before a baseball game. It's awesome stuff. It's awesome stuff. Danny Dodds, Paul, I'm starting to get the feeling that you don't like me. No hard feelings. You're all Giants fans here. You're right, but see, here's the thing, Danny. My philosophy, as I've described on this program in Big Blue Kickoff Live for the longest time, I always approach all of these issues from the coach's or general manager's perspective. I don't approach it from a frustrated fan's perspective. I approach everything from an analytical, reasonable, and logical coach's or general manager's perspective, which means the glass is always going to be half full because coaches and general managers believe that they've got a plan and they have confidence, belief, if you will, in what they are trying to do to make the team better. Now, I just happen to be a very positive person. Okay? I walk around every day with the glass half full. I just think it brings more joy to life. It gives you more of a reason to smile during the course of the day. It gives you more of a reason to be energetic. God knows, I'm an Italian. I'm very energetic. Okay? I'm intense, I'm energetic, and I'm always pushing the pedal to the metal. Well, I can't be glass half empty. That's counterproductive for me. And I firmly stand on that. And it's okay. If you want to be glass half full, I'll entertain a comment or two about where you're coming from. I'll try to tell you why I'm glass half full instead of half empty. And we'll see if we can logically rationalize some type of viewpoint. And if we can't, we can agree to disagree. What I don't particularly care about your posts is that you constantly hammer home stuff that's from the past, that's glass half empty, and that serves absolutely no purpose to forward what's going to happen this season or next season. It does absolutely no good to Giants fans out there watching this show to complain about Daniel Jones. It's a worthless waste of breath and time and energy. So I hope we have a better understanding now. Isaac Moore, your thoughts on Dart from what you saw versus the Bills? I have high hopes and say he looked good. Again, I say this all the time about rookies. You want to see them check as many boxes as possible, and you don't want to see any red flags. My only red flag for Jackson Dart so far is that he did not slide feet first when he scrambled and took off a few times against the Bills. He was shoulder first, head first, being physical, being tough. But quarterbacks in this league put themselves at risk if they don't slide feet first and give themselves up. Eli Manning had a similar problem. Somehow he lasted forever. But Eli had trouble sliding feet first too. I hope Dart learns that skill quickly. That's the one red flag that I have right now. Isaac Moore says, I want to see progress in team building over the next few years. Sabres Nation for Life says, is Danny Dudge Charlie? Charlie from Maine from the daytime program. It might be. Isaac Moore, Saquon made the right decision. Hate to say it, and he got paid handsomely. For him, he did. For him, he did. He got a contract just about what the Giants had offered earlier at an advanced age, got to go to a team that had the best offensive line in football and provided him gaping holes to show off his tremendous and incredible talents at a maximum level. You're absolutely right, Isaac. You're absolutely right. From a selfish perspective, if you're just saying, did Saquon Barkley maximize his position and his production? He absolutely did. There's no question about that. I've said that all along. If you're Saquon Barkley, you did what was best for you. It wasn't best for the Giants, but it was best for him. I would never dispute that. 100%. Jack's blank. I'm not sure I understand. BBers IX level. I don't understand. Anyway, okay, whatever. Danny Duds, the DB room worries me. Missing X out there, huge loss. You won't. Holland and Nubin are going to be an outstanding combination at safety. I do believe that. Nubin's a budding star, and Holland's already a darn good player. I would like to see the Giants secure themselves perhaps a veteran slot corner to back up Drew Phillips, because right now I think Nick Jones potentially is maybe the best choice to back up Phillips in the slot. I'm not loving that. So I'd be looking at the waiver wire to see if they could do better. All right. Yeah, I think we have a piece of spam here. Jackson Black looks like he's spam, so whatever. We'll just keep passing by him and finish up. Danny Dudd says, Dart has a baseball background. He knows how to slide. Well, he hasn't shown it to us yet. Best break it out before somebody gets him hurt. Isaac Moore says, maybe if he's Josh Allen. Mark B says, appreciate you, Paul, and all you do for the New York Giants fans, giving us good info, priceless. Well, thank you so much, Mark, and I appreciate you for sticking with the program, as always. Sean Jackson, Paul, what can we expect to see Scottaboo ever hit the field again? Didn't practice any of the 2 training camps my son and I attended. That sore hamstring is been kind of lingering on him. Coach Brian Daboll says none of the injuries are long-term. He quantifies them all as improving, and basically he has said a couple of times about the group of fellas that are hurt that they're day-to-day. So, Sean, I don't know the exact answer to that. I don't get the impression that it's serious enough to hamper his opening day possibilities, though. And finally, Isaac Moore says, Flott is coming up too. Yeah. Flott has been really good this offseason. Really good last season. And as you guys will remember, if you follow me on Big Blue Kickoff, I was a big Cordell Flott proponent when he came out of LSU in the draft. I also said he's not a slot corner. He is a boundary corner. They had desperate needs in the slot. They played him in there out of position. It did not go very well. Then when they had the luxury to finally move him back outside last year because they drafted Drew Phillips, you saw how much better Cordell Flott played. But I still think he's behind Tay Banks on my depth chart. Well, that'll do it for tonight's edition of the Big Blue Breakdown Live. Well over 1,000 people live on the viewership line watching tonight's program. We appreciate each and every one of you for being with us. We're going to come back again next Wednesday night before the Giants play the New England Patriots in the preseason finale. We'll be here Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's our usual time slot, okay? And again, we invite you to chat with us, audio call, or video call us here on the Big Blue Breakdown. It's all part of the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel and media network. Until next time, I'm Paul Dottino. So glad you could join us tonight, folks. Everybody, be well, and we'll catch you again next time.